Hello Dabblers of the Internet, JP here with another Kings of War battle report. My new Goblins versus Sellick's Undead. 1,995 points, first round of ConVic. So the event is ConVic 2022. An event that's been postponed for 2 years in a row, for obvious reasons that I do not need to go into. But it's finally back, and it's coming back with a bang. It's being held at a typical venue that it's always been held at, which is a bowls club. So if you're not familiar with what lawn bowl is, you can look it up. But the venue is quaint, it's nice, it's got a bar, it's got a kitchenette where you can keep stuff in a fridge, and there was some free snacks there provided the whole time. It was fantastic. Not the healthiest snacks, but delicious snacks all the same. Wagon wheels, donuts, things like that, you know. So that was all the kind of amenities that were there. The event itself is quite different as well from what I've seen most events be like. Instead of just having a standard kind of 6 games of one kind of points level, this has 7 games. So on the first day we have 4 smaller games of 1,995 points, of which this is the first round, and then we have 3 games on the second day of 2,300 points. Now, your army must be from the same faction, but it need not contain the same units whatsoever. It could be a completely different list. Now, obviously, for me, I've been building up these goblins from scratch from when I heard about this tournament, and so I was not about to go building 2 whole goblin armies because it was hard enough doing the one. But I managed to get 2,300 points of goblins, and really the 1995 list is just, minus 305 points. So it's just a smaller list of what I'd like to have. So that's the overall event, and you got your normal prizes that you get out of it. So you have your first, second, and third. You have player's choice for painted. You have sportsmanship, and the best for each of the factions best for each of the alignments outside of whoever was the general. First, second, or third. You know what I mean? So there's quite a lot to go for, and there's loads of prizes. So the organisers have been 3D printing like mad over the pandemic. It's kind of accumulated because of all the times that we couldn't have this event. So there was a whole table covered in prizes, and these are all 3D prints of all kinds of things. Giants, dragons, sceneries like towers, huts, all kinds of stuff. And you will see throughout the games. Actually, there'll be some random pieces of unpainted terrain that is not just laziness, that's actually on purpose, because those are pieces of terrain that you could win. And the idea is that when we get to the end of the whole tournament, everyone gets to take something home. It's just, whoever got which prize actually just gets to pick first from the table. So that's really neat. Everyone gets something. So you're going to come back with something pretty cool, because there were so many cool things. You would definitely get something you wanted, because it was a wide variety of stuff. It was really cool. Now, having said cool too many times, I think I'll try and not do it for at least the next 3 minutes, and talk about the rest of what made this event special. So we do have our army list that we have to bring on the 2 different days, but there were also just a few little interesting things. The next interesting thing, which is all shown in the wonderful players pack that was produced by Matt Sellick from Direct Misfire for the organisers, and he is now going to go on and be an organiser of ConVic in future. Probably just because of his amazing design capabilities. But yeah, the other thing was that you, at the start of the game, would roll off, and whoever wins that roll off gets to move a single piece of terrain up to 6 inches in any direction they like. So you can start to think about where that might help. If your army wants to start in some kind of cover, you can bring that cover even further in, or better where you want it to be. Or you can bring heals into deployment zones, all that kind of stuff. There's nothing really off the cards there for moving terrain about. And it's just a little extra thing. It's quite fun. And then the final thing was the last scenario when we get there, Dominate, has just an extra little bit where the very center of the board counts as +1 unit strength for whatever's on that singular dot. Only one thing can be on there at a time, but that can even make a individual unit strength one. So, that's a few battle reports away, but when we get there, we'll see. So, it is now time to go into the first game, and my first opponent actually grudge matched me. So they called me out on Facebook. They put up a whole notice, and I responded in kind and tried to lay down my best insults as well and strike fear into his heart. And it was Matt Sellick from Direct Misfire as well, so the man who made this wonderful players pack, and he has brought his Undead, his walking Undead, because they're all, everything goes towards the whole Walking Dead, AMC's The Walking Dead kind of idea, especially his Legion of Zombies, which is in this splash right here. It's just incredible, and so everything is in this same vein, so it's a fantastic theme that's just wonderful to look at, and so I just hope that my Goblin army wasn't too bad to look at either. So let's get into the army lists. So here's my list, called JP's Legal Goblins, and I think by the time I've gone to the end of it, you'll see why. So I'll quickly go through the list itself and then talk about how I plan to use it. So I have 3 hordes of trolls, 2 hordes of rabble, 2 big rocks throwers, 1 king upgraded with Jareth's Pendant and the Sacred Horn, 1 king with the unique upgrade to become Groany Snark, 1 troll bruiser with a Staying Stone, 1 winget upgraded to be Bombs Away, so that's the option I picked there, 1 Grupp Longnail, and then the Gorp's Explodomatic Bang Sticks formation unique to Goblins, which comprises of 2 Fleabag Rider regiments, one of which has Sir Jesse's Boots of Striding, and 1 king on Fleabag. So a more melee-centric list than Goblins traditionally would skew to, and that's thanks to obviously a lot of the updates in Clash of Kings 2022. So you might now realize what might have made it illegal, insofar as just things that aren't normally allowed in a list, and that is 3 of the same kind of unit for anything under 2,000 points. So if this was a 2,000 point game, we'd be fine, but 1995 points, I've got 3 kings. 3 wise kings, not really. So yeah, obviously I've got the 2 actual kings and I have king on Fleabag, but the reason I put that in bold is because the reason I think it slipped through, because obviously I had to put this together on Easy Army and submit it in advance and then bring the list along, and this list has been published in multiple places. It's been on Goonhammer, it's been on YouTube, but it was the first time it appeared on YouTube just a few weeks ago that Juan picked it up and he said, hang on, isn't that 3 kings? I don't think that's allowed. And he's right, it's not allowed. So that's why it's illegal. So I was in here to cheat, to win with my 3 kings. So just to, the army is kind of broken into 2 separate chunks. We have the 3 hordes of trolls that will be preceded by a wave of rabble. So you got to get through my rabble to get to the trolls, and all of this block of stuff is being escorted by the king with Jareth's Pendant, which gives that nice headstrong aura that you really need when you've got trolls involved. And the Sacred Horn just makes that aura a little bit bigger. Then I've got the Troll Bruiser and the Winget, 2 smaller units that can get around and grab objectives. So these actually replaced all the different individuals I used to like to fill with this list. So I'd like to put in Mugwa and Joes, I'd put in a Bangat, a Wiz, I'd have all these extra components. But the problem is that they don't actually contribute to the scenario at the end. So really, that's where they got changed out for a Troll Bruiser, who's he's pretty good at fighting. He's only got 5 attacks, but he's still pretty good and he can score, and a Winget. So these are also helpful, especially with the 2 big rocks throwers, which is my main ranged potential. But what this list really has is, because of all the different kings that I illegally own, they've each got short bows. So there's actually a lot of little plinky damage that can come out. I was able to use that short bows to, clear certain things like, some kind of chaff. I could just kind of shoot it off and I could be lucky. And so the other component of the army would be the Explodomatic Bang Sticks. So I have my big block of, infantry and large infantry on one side, and then I usually have the Bang Sticks going completely the other way, and they're really fun to use. So if you're not familiar with the actual formation, what that actually does is the King on Fleabag gains an elite aura, and the Fleabag Riders go up to Thunderous Charge 2. And when they roll 6s to hit, they get Blast 2, which is fantastic. But they do 1 damage to themselves. Not so fantastic. But these guys, the Fleabag Riders, have as long as they're within range of the king on Fleabag, they'll have elite and they'll have vicious. So they're usually getting a huge amount of wounds. But that means that when they're very successful, they will have taken a huge amount of damage as well. So then it doesn't take much to remove them in response. So that's what I was finding across all these games, was that I was, as the games wore on, and you get to turn 4 or 5, I'm usually down the 6 unit strength that those Fleabag Riders would be, because they're gone. And I guess that would be fine, but as far as Goblin armies go, this is not actually that high unit strength, so it did mean I was struggling. It made winning the scenarios a lot more even than it would be, or should be, for a Goblin player, especially in some of those scenarios. So, that's just how they are. So, now, the only part that I would really change to make it legal would be just to get rid of Groany Snark. Because right now, the Groany Snark is in there because he's fun to use, he's that threat, but he's not so threatening that he can actually really, eventually the opponent will just be like, oh well, he's going to get something, and then just stop worrying about it. And so, he's a part of the list that doesn't really bring either components together, whereas everything else has a role. Even Gruplong now has a role because he's very good at just slowing things down. Whereas, Groany Snark, you can send him in and he might kill a whole unit, but he might struggle to kill a wizard, just because he's so swingy. He's hitting on 4s. I mean, he's wounding on 2s, but he's hitting on 4s, so that can really go any which way. So I'd probably just drop the Groany Snark and just introduce something else for 100 points. Perhaps, shuffle the points around to get in a second Troll Bruiser, or just put in, try and work my way in with another Wingit. That would be probably what I would have done instead. But, I didn't see it. I should have, but I'm a cheater. So if you don't mind watching a battle between a cheater and a very nice person, Sellick, with his Undead, then please continue watching. Otherwise, I guess I'll see you once I finish this whole series, because, once we get to 2,300 points, then this list will become legal, for obvious reasons. So, let's get on to Sellick's list. Now, coming up from Sellick's The Walking Dead, we have a range of undead units that are just all quite good, and so he's just taken a selection of, I guess, all the things he likes. So we have 1 regiment of zombies, 1 troop of wraiths with the Brew of Haste, 1 regiment of Death Pack with Fire Oil, 1 regiment of Soul Reaver Cavalry with Chalice of Wrath, 1 horde of zombie trolls with Sir Jesse's Boots of Striding, 1 horde of wights with Blade of Slashing, 1 necromancer with Inspiring Talisman, Aura for vicious melee for zombies only, Bane Chant 2, Knowledgeable, and Veil of Shadows 3. 1 Morgoth the Faceless, and then the Shambling Blight formation unique to the Undead, which comprises 2 zombie legions, 1 with the Brew of Strength and 1 with Hammer of Measured Force, and a Gorblight. That's a lot of interesting things, a lot of different things, not leaning too heavily into any particular thing, apart from what I would say is obviously the zombies. We've got the legions of zombies, and we've got the necromancer giving vicious to the zombies, and we have the zombie trolls. So that's all stuff that can go very well together, and just benefit. And so you just got to move that necromancer around, because he probably can't get to all of them. And you got the Veil of Shadows, just so nothing gets really shot to pieces. But I think that was anticipating Gladestalkers, but surprisingly at this event there were very few Gladestalkers being taken. Just, I don't know, it was a hard shift from what the rest of the world was doing. So not many Gladestalkers, so no real need for that Veil of Shadows, because I certainly wouldn't be using my big rock throwers against zombies. Maybe zombie trolls, but yeah. And so I've also never been against Morgoth the Faceless, because he's actually very good, it turns out. I just didn't know this, but he's hard to kill. He has Boots of Levitation effect built in, so he can move at the double and cast. And what he can cast Drain Life, Bane Chant, Surge, and they're all very high. Like I said, Drain Life 7 or 8, and Surge 10. He's good. I mean, he is supposed to be the master of the Undead, from Panathor legend. But really what scares me the most is not the Soul Reaver Cavalry. I mean, they're kind of scary, but they're just kind of your regular kind of cavalry. Wights are pretty scary, that's true, but it's those zombie legions, because firstly, I don't have enough attacks to kill them, because, I don't have a high quality or volume of attacks, because everything I've got is hitting on 4s. So and most of the stuff that is putting out the damage is wasted on zombies. You know, my trolls, for instance. So yeah, trolls or goblins, it doesn't really matter what goes into those zombies, but they also can't compete in combat, because what makes these zombie legions nasty is they actually can hit back. The Brew of Strength and all the sources of Bane Chant, these zombies could be wounding me on 3s. The Hammer of Measured Force one's not so scary, I mean, but, you know, what are you going to do, give him Brew of Sharpness? I don't think so. So, yeah, so Brew of Strength zombie legion is definitely more terrifying than the Hammer of Measured Force ones. And yeah, so they're dash 29 thanks to the formation, because the Gauntlet gets rally 1, so it's just like, whoo, that's high. So yeah, this is the list that I have to contend with, and I was thinking I could take down some of it, but pretty much everything except the zombie legions. Everything else is your standard kind of like it's got defeatable stats, but the zombie legion is somewhere beyond what I think I can do, especially if there's Morgoth the Faceless sitting there doing his drain lives and stuff. That's definitely gonna make it trickier. So diving right into the game, actually into about at the end of turn 1, because I only started taking pictures at that point, and because I was too excited getting the whole game going that I forgot that I was actually going to do reports for this whole thing. So that's what we've got here. This is a nice picture taken with my phone, because I was trying to take some pictures not only for the Goonhammer articles that I wanted to write, but also in case of a situation such as this where I hadn't recorded anything. So in this case, this picture is perfect, because what it does is it still shows you where the deployment was, because nothing's really moved all that much, because this is the end of my turn 1. He's just about to start moving his own stuff. So we will go through the deployment as such. On the left flank, you can see the 2 Bang Sticks regiments with the King on Fleabag, the illegal one, in between them. So that's usually how they're always going. They're on some kind of flank, and you can see on that side that it's pretty open for them to take advantage of. And you see behind that building there, there's this kind of, that's actually a crow. So what I'm using for my wingets are these giant 3D printed crows. If you remember from a video from ages ago, I think it was last year, where I've got those 3D printed crows, I kept bashed some goblin to go on top and converted some stuff, and made my winget. So that's one actually being used, which is very exciting. It's its first time on a battlefield ever, so that was pretty cool. And then at the bottom, you'll see right to the left there are my 2 big rock throwers, just angling to have a view of most of the army, although that hill in the middle is not really helping, so I can't see, for instance, the legions of zombies, but really all I want to have my eye on are the Soul Reavers and also the Whites. Yes, the Whites. I keep getting mixed up, Whites and Wraiths. Whites. So that's really all I really care about. And then on the hill there with 1 damage on him already is Groany Snark. So that's good old Groany Snark, just flying around. So that's a goblin that's it's from the Catchweb Spider Shrine from the Arachnarok. You know, it's the little shaman that comes with that. So he's got these spider legs sticking out of his abdomen, I suppose, connected with spiderweb. So it kind of looks like he could fly using that. So I just put a rod, you know, one of those clear acrylic rods that you get with all kinds of flying stuff, especially my Eldar grav tanks, and just stuck that literally up his bum, and yeah, he's fine, he can fly now. And I gave him a giant club from just some bits of troll, because I felt like he needed a very formidable weapon to denote the fact that he can have Thunderous 2 crushing 1, so he needs something that can show that. And then we move over to the right, and we have my the units that always get deployed together, the 2 rabble hordes at the front, so you can see those with the huts and the trees on them, so that's the 2 hordes of rabble. Between those I have the Troll Bruiser, I have Grupp Longnail, and the King with the Pendant and Sacred Horn. And then behind those are the 3 hordes of trolls that you can see, 2 straddling that hill and 1 kind of forest and 1 in that forest. So what makes the whole layout, what we've got going on here, unique is that we have the hill, one of those was pushed into the deployment, the one that Sellick's hand is currently on. So obviously I won the roll-off, I pushed a hill into deployment, and then he won the roll-off for actual deploying, and so took that side, purely because he didn't want to give me a place to put my war engines. So yeah, that was the whole idea behind this deployment, because I try now to really think about where I put it. It's just simply the real estate that was available for my army, and the whole goal of the game, because this scenario is plunder, and so that means it's like loot, but with more. So instead of 3 loot counters, you have 5 loot counters, and 2 of them are worth 2, which are nominated by each of us. And I believe one of them is on the hill, that's worth 2, and another one is, they're pretty much right in the center. One's on that hill right in the middle, and one is towards the right, the most rightmost. And so, yeah, I just deployed the bulk of my army, my unit strength, to get those tokens, but the problem is, so did Sellick with his legions, so it's not clear how I will get through them. But it's only 2 legions and the trolls. They're a bit separated from the Whites and the Soul Reaver cavalry on the other side, as well as the Wraiths and the Death Pack, which are acting as their chaff. So, going through, I better formally go through his deployment. We've got on the far left, on his side, there's a little regiment of zombies there. So that little regiment is obviously, sole existence is to grab a loot token if it can, and keep it. Which is a nice cheap way to do it. I don't really have anything that cheap that can do that, so... Which is, for goblins. I just should have maybe had, like, a regiment of goblins, but I just couldn't be bothered painting more. But I will for a more professional list. But this list was purely the things I wanted to paint and could paint in the time leading up to it. Then behind Sellick's hand there, because it's actually what he's measuring at, is this Soul Reaver regiment. So they're on the hill, the Soul Reaver cavalry, taking the hill that I would have put mine on. And next to them, kind of behind the hill, is Morgoth. Moving forward already, you can see the green tinge of the Wraith troop. They've just moved up forward, and then next to that, right in the pretty much in the middle of his deployment, he has his Whites with the Death Pack in front of them. And then moving to the other side of that impassable terrain, we finally have Legion of Zombies, the Gorblight, another Legion of Zombies, and the Zombie Trolls. And you can't see him, but shifting places behind there is the Necromancer, so he's just kind of moving around to wherever he needs to be. So it's a real face-off between our 2 big chunky parts of our armies and then our faster parts, his Soul Reaver cavalry and my bang sticks. So it's my plan is to hopefully clear up his fast part with my much faster units, and then bring them to bear on the legions, because it's really only the bang sticks that have the ability to get through those legions and legions of zombies. But the problem is, it's just, will they have enough power left to do that? That's the question. And so I might as well just say, what I did for my first turn. You can see I kind of just moved everything up. The bang sticks are now in range of all of his units, but making sure that nothing was in range, so which is pretty easy to do when you're speed 10. It's pretty cool. And then so what I also did was move up the whole main army just a bit, because I have to get towards those tokens. I can't really let his legions grab them first, so I do have to make my way there faster. But I am trying to keep everything in line, because I'm a bit stymied by the forest in my deployment zone. So I've moved up 5 inches, so that's just how everything has gone up. But what I did do, I got both unlucky and lucky. So obviously Grony Snark decided to explode, but he was by himself in the middle of nowhere. So good start. He just rolls that. If he rolls a 1, he does 1 damage to himself and everything, good or bad, friend or foe, within 6 inches. And so, yeah, that's how the game started. But then it got really good, because I think I did like 5 damage or 6 damage on his Soul Reaver cavalry. So you can see the damage dice next to him. So he's not enamored with that at all. And so that's what you get for putting your Soul Reaver cavalry on the hill that was supposed to be mine. I think I made a remark to some effect like that. Sellick's turn 1 was comparatively restrained. Everything's just kind of moving up, so the zombie regiment on the side is just approaching the objectives there, whereas the Soul Reaver cavalry is just staying on the hill, because they don't want to invite disaster from the bang sticks, which are very much right on the edge. Like they're just out of 20-inch range, so they can't do anything else. They want to stay on the hill because they want to be able to actually do something should I charge in, because he's hoping that I will charge into his wraiths. And yeah, he's got Morgoth just right there next to them. Then we have over in the middle, we have those wraiths that are being defended by that building there, so that only one unit can really charge in effectively. Two can, but then they'll be right next to each other. Then we also have the whites that they're looking towards my trolls for now. But with Surge, things can go any which way. And the Death Pack is heading towards my war engines, hoping to take them down. I've already put a few wounds on the Death Pack because I've got my few short bows around, but thus far no effect. And then finally we see that the legions of zombies are moving up. It's become a bit staggered. Some trying to stay in the cover so they don't get shot at as much, while the other legion, the one that actually has the signage on it, that's the one with the Brew of Strength. The one that's in the sewer is the one with the Hammer of Measured Force, and you can see that Gorblight in between them moving up too. So they're going forward that 2-point token, and so yeah, not all that much has happened. He's just a bit shocked at how well I'm shocked at how well my war engines did as well. So yeah, can they continue? That's the real question. So turn 2 I was quite proud of. So you can see here that both the bang sticks have moved very far across the board because they managed to double charge the wraiths and get right through them. And this was a bit of a gamble because if were they to just hit the wraiths, they would have been offering their flank to the Soul Reaver cavalry who were on a hill. Just as well, I also managed to kill the Soul Reaver cavalry with some shooting, so I was feeling pretty chuffed at this point. And so what I've done is the combat reform. As a result, I managed to move one of the bang sticks right forward and the other one sideways just to get away because they were snug against that hill, which really would have impeded their ability to charge from there. So from here I'm feeling pretty cool in that I'm now threatening a whole lot of the undead army. But obviously I need to be cognizant of things like Surge, and so maybe I've moved a bit too far forward with those bang sticks towards those whites, because the whites are very dangerous, and Morgoth there has Surge 10. You can see Morgoth on the hill all by himself, poor guy. So yeah, I'm very happy with my turn too. Over on the other side of the battlefield, if we take a look, still nothing happening. We're just edging towards each other, and I've just moved up and I'm kind of a bit silent. I'm just waiting, seeing what will happen and where his legions will go, because I'm just a bit tentative, especially there's a few things in the army that are speed 6, namely the trolls and the Gorblight, and so at this point I don't want them to engage, but really what I should be doing is actually, teasing them out. I should be trying to split the forces up rather than just, holding back, and so that's my bad. And then you can see behind that building, behind the red one, there's a Groany Snark. So what I've done is I've jumped him over. After his first, he got onto the hill, and for turn 1, turn 2, now he's gone behind that red building, the red colour, like it's got the red roof, and now the idea is maybe he can hunt down that bloody Necromancer, because that Necromancer with his Vicious Aura is very useful, and also the only source of inspiring on that side of the battlefield. So if I could just get him, that'd be very useful too. So that's the plan for Groany. In Sellick's turn 2, the Undead do what Undead do so well, and that is Surge. So what we can see is that the whites had no problem turning. So all they did was they did a full kind of reform because they had to. I think a 90 degrees they couldn't have moved forward with that 90 degrees. So they just did a full turnabout, facing the first of my bang stick units, the one that went up way too far, which was in hindsight not good. But I had to do something. What I really should have done, I should have just shuffled them both sideways and just been happy with that. But I got greedy, and so by shuffling them too far, the whites had no problem just turning on the spot, and then Morgoth politely did his, Surge 10 and pushed them all the way in. I mean, I was hoping, I think it was he needed a 5, and I was hoping, because, Surges are as likely to fail as they are to be successful, but they got in, they destroyed, and now they are facing the next of my bang sticks, who at least will get the chance to have a unimpeded charge right into them. So, just got to try and see what can happen. But yeah, so that's not looking all that good, but that's really all that's threatening over here is just that and Morgoth with his Drain Life. So I think the plan is that Morgoth will be participating in that when they go back in, just to make sure that they kill those bang sticks, because Morgoth right now has kind of buggered off to the side. I mean, he's got very inspiring, so he's just within 9 inches, but you can see there's a little shadow, a miniature next to that building with the red roof. That's where he's gone to just chill out. And if we move over to the other side, everything just continues to move up, and I think he's trying to get his Gorblight into range of stuff. You know, he's just shuffled a bit forward. There's a few gaps, but nothing really to take advantage of, and I'm not sure why the trolls have angled a bit, but I guess the idea was maybe if I charge them, I'll be at an angle. But yeah, this is just glacially moving forward towards my goblins, and now it's I guess it's putting it towards me as do I want to make the first move. Who's gonna do it? And so the battle continues on the left side of the battlefield between the bangsticks and the whites. So I took that charge right into the whites in the hope that I would destroy them. I mean, you can. You're hitting on 4s, you got the elite aura, so you're rerolling the 1s, your 6s double, and then you got vicious as well. So there's every reason why I should be able to do quite a bit of damage, but it is chancy. Perhaps what I should have done is also included my king, but I was feeling like I needed to hold him back, because perhaps what I'm doing is just holding off these whites from, you know, committing to the rest of the battlefield, because their inclusion against the trolls would be disastrous, because they'd be able to come in on flanks and I'd have to do all kinds of things to deal with that. But at the same time, that charge went off and I didn't kill them, hence they're still there. Because I'm filming these at the end of each of the turns. I try and do all the action because it's a tournament. I don't want to slow things down. And goblins take long enough. I gotta say, you know, when you're rolling, it's not just the volume of dice, but it's all the extra little rolls. You know, I've got so many blast rolls I'm doing in here, and then there's the little re-rolls. It actually takes up a lot of time to just get through all of that. And do it in a way that your opponent can see, you know, because if I tried to roll as fast as possible, that it would definitely be faster. But I always want to make sure that the results are clear to both of us, and that there's no doubt that what has occurred was due to the dice and not because, you know, I just picked them up really quickly. And so yeah, when it all kind of just blows out a bit, you know, the microseconds add up. But what else has happened? Well, the Winged managed to turn, and using his fire bombs destroyed the death pack. So that's one less thing to worry about. My war engines will continue. The problem is the war engines really don't have anything else to shoot at. There's mostly just some trolls on the other side, so that's what they've started shooting at in turn 3. But, you know, they're fearless. I mean, that's really the only problem. They're fearless. I haven't got a list of things. They don't have regen. Mine do. They do have life leech. And yeah, it's just the fearless that's really the annoying part. So I won't be able to really take them down until I start getting them into the, you know, 12 damage territory. But, you know, you've got to get started somehow. So, looking at that side of the battlefield, yeah, we can see the damage that was inflicted upon those trolls, 5 damage in total, so another very successful round of shooting. If I do that one more time, then I will have them in the so-called danger zone, because I think they're dash 17. Yeah, so a roll of a 7 twice, you know, it's roughly likely, 25% chance just to be like, bang, gone. So, hopefully. But yeah, it's just the rest of my army's moved up, and the only now thing that's happening is that you can see little Grupp has moved out in front. You know, he's got his hands in the Kamehameha move. He's going out and he's ready to Kamehameha something. The idea is I'm tempting the Gorblight. I want to tempt that Gorblight out of his hidey hole between the two legions and start doing some real damage to him. I've done a little bit, you know, I've done some blink damage with the short bows, but I really want to kill it because it is the source of that Rally 1. He's also got Cloak of Death, so the longer he sits around, the more damage he'll do to my entire army. He's just a really good centerpiece to this. I mean, he's already actually quite a good unit to have, and in the formation, he's fantastic. So I'm just hoping that that's something I can take out. You can also see that in the background, Goni Snark there. He was just denoted by a base with the dice next to it. The dice, he got it right at the start when he exploded. Yeah, he just had to reposition because, yeah, Matt Sellick is very good at hiding his Necromancer, because he knows that Necromancer is the only thing that's really holding this whole thing together. Once that's gone, then suddenly spiky rolls, I might be able to take things out. Morgoth could definitely fly over here, but then he'll be leaving the whites alone. So, yeah, there's only 2 sources of inspiring in this army, so it's quite a precarious position if I were to take one out. But he's keeping him hidden very well, so Grony's still yet to engage. So turn 3, Grony's still done nothing. He's able to shoot off his little short bow when he hasn't gone at the double, but it's still not ideal, because he does have a lot of damage potential, but you have to get him into combat, right? Yeah, so far the left flank has gone all crazy with all kinds of bloodshed, but the right side, everything's silent for now. Turn 3 for the Undead sees some of my fears realized. Firstly, on the left, we have that zombie regiment has managed to grab one of the tokens. What I neglected to mention, I think, was because my winglet now has one of the tokens. So my winglet's grabbed a token. Fantastic! So yeah, that's good, but the bad thing is I have let one of the zombie regiments get it, and I have no real way of getting it back. I mean, I could send in, for instance, my little goblin on Fleabag, the king on Fleabag, into there, but he could take a very long time to take it down, because he only got 5 attacks sitting on 4s, so yeah. That's one that's gone, perhaps. But yeah, the worst part is now the whites got through that next unit of bang sticks. So both my bang sticks are gone. I'm down 6 unit strength, and my speediest component of my army is gone. What you can't see is Morgoth is right next to them, because it was Morgoth that really helped push it over the line with his Drain Life 7. And so these whites are now pretty much at full health, and they have taken out all the threats on this half of the board. So yes, it's looking a bit dismal over there, but at least I got one of the tokens, and intend to run away as much as I can with it, as much as possible anyway. Over on the other side, well, everything continues to move up. The Undead army has actually gone completely out of the forest, and they are now within striking distance of all those loot tokens. So it's looking like this will have to be the time when I need to charge, because the way it works out is I can then end up on top of some of these tokens and pick them up. The idea is then I would have to then drop them as soon as possible, so that they can be passed on to some more nimble units such as my Troll Bruiser. So that's the plan that's in my head. But it's not looking good now that the left flank is a bit opened up. And still, the Necromancer eludes me. So where he is now, you can just see, it's hard to tell, but he's in front of that forest that's right at the top there. So he's behind the forest in terms of line of sight is blocked by the forest to Grony Snark, but he's still giving his important buff to at least half of this contingent over here. So yeah, it's not looking great for me. I still have a lot of units. He does still too, but now it's getting a bit more even, whereas before I felt like I had a big advantage. It's turn 4 and it's charging time. This is probably the latest I have ever charged with my goblins thus far. I mean, I have to really learn to hold back with them, but at this point I felt like I needed to get those tokens. So you can see that I've charged with the goblins on the left into the Gorblight, so they've just charged in right there, and the trolls have charged the middle legion to prevent any kind of surging shenanigans. Not that I think it could, the gap was probably not big enough. And then we also have the goblins hitting the trolls there, the zombie trolls. So both the goblin hordes have managed to pick up the tokens that they were assigned to, and so now technically I have 3 tokens, which is pretty amazing. And yeah, the rest of my trolls are kind of running up behind. I didn't push them up too far to get flush, because you never know, you never really want to get traffic jam going. But perhaps what I should have done is get a bit closer. I'm not sure. I think I was out of range of that other zombie legion, because it would have been good to charge that other zombie legion over there, because they certainly could do a flank surge. But you know, this is how I decided that I should tackle it. And chances are those trolls on the left were out of range, and so this is where we are. And so the plan is to hold off long enough that I can drop at least one of the tokens to give to my Troll Bruiser, which I believe is one of the 2-point tokens, and the Troll Bruiser can then just waddle away holding that token a little bit slower, because obviously these loot tokens reduce you to speed 5. So that's the plan on this side, and considering I haven't shown any of the damage dice, I don't think anything amazing has occurred, and I wouldn't expect it to, because unfortunately it's kind of the wrong way around. Now that I'm thinking about it, the goblins really should be going into the legions, because at least I've got the weight of attacks to get through, and I don't need any kind of armor penetration, whereas the trolls should be going into the Gorblight and into the zombie trolls. There should be a troll off. But I've got to kind of arse backward, as we might say in Australia, and gone and done the opposite of what I meant. Perhaps the reason why was I needed some big bases to get onto some of these tokens, because otherwise I wouldn't have. But I mean, really, is that an issue? I could have just charged in and then gone and manually picked up the tokens with the unit I want to give it to in the end, which is the Troll Bruiser. So what am I doing? I'm not really sure, but this is what's happened, and now I've made my bed and I'm going to lie in it. Moving over, looking at the other side, we can see that just my individuals have skedaddled. We've got both the King and Grony Grupp have run away to try and join this fight here, and the Winged is doing his almighty best to get out of dodge because he's only speed 5 now too. Matt Sellick has now realised that he can charge with his whites my King. I shouldn't have put him on the hill. Why I put him on the hill? I probably thought, oh well, I want to be able to see over the hill so I can charge something silly like that, like charge with an individual. Who cares? It's not going to make a difference. But what will make a difference is the fact I have given his whites a very quick way of engaging with this side of the battlefield. Without that charge, they would have moved just up a bit, and they still wouldn't be able to see everything, and they'll move up a bit, and then they'll charge the turn after. But now they're going to get a charge where they get onto a hill. I don't want them on a hill. And so, yeah, it's, yeah. When he was measuring that, I'm like, oh, I should have measured that. Because, yeah, I was moving it. He can move anywhere. He is a very fast little guy. Nimble, he just, yeah. And I could have put that Goblin King on Fleabag anywhere but there. Or just a bit further back, perhaps, where he'll be behind the building, but still on the hill, so he could still see. That would have been smart, right? I hear you agree. I can't hear. But yes. Alas, more beds that I have made, and more lying must I do. Turn 4 for the Undead has seen some of my worst fears realised. It's not really to do with the zombie regiment, they're just kind of waddling about, and I'm going to start plinking them with my war engines, because I've got nothing else to do with them, so they're going to be my next target. But it's this. That was the charge that was being measured out, and here they are. So the whites have made it over, along with Morgoth right next to them, and they're going to, unfortunately, have no problem killing my poor little Goblin King. Then next we have here is the real bad. So I, as I said before, it would have been good if perhaps my trolls on the left had managed to charge that legion of zombies that was just left out there, but they were left to their own devices and were able to do a flank charge either through surge abilities or not surge abilities into the flank of my goblin horde. So that's not good for the rabble. They're going to definitely die because this is, yeah, it's 60 attacks even without any kind of bonuses, but I think these guys are going to be Bane Chanted. They've got strength, a brew of strength on these ones, so yeah, they're going to be wounding them on 2s. And then we just have a whole bunch of counter charges into the rest of the units that are currently in combat, which includes the Legion of Zombies into the Trolls, the Zombie Trolls into the Rabble Horde, and the Gorblight also into that legion, into the horde of goblins. The Gorblight did get a rear charge from Grony, because Grony couldn't see the Necromancer, so it ended up in my turn going into the Gorblight, but obviously did very little, and for the trouble is now just taking Cloak of Death damage. So my inability to keep control of his lines has now led me to be in a very precarious situation indeed. So it's not desirable, but we will see if we can get out of this situation. Moving to the aftermath of all of this, we can see that, not surprisingly, the Legion of Zombies had no trouble flank charging a Rebel Horde, so the Rebel Horde is gone, and so that leaves them ready to prey on either of the Troll units, so we'll just see what I can do there. Then we move over here, we can see that those Trolls are now wavered. Even though there's not that much damage on them, it's still, you know, that's the problem with these guys, they can get wavered quite easy. But I do have the Headstrong Aura, so hopefully I can wiggle my way out of that. And then finally, we have the King is dead, the Goblin King on Fleabag, so that leaves very easily I didn't expect him to survive, but now it leaves the whites, the horde of whites, to just look down on my flank. So everything's in a bit more of a precarious position, and yeah, I'll just have to think about how I'll get out of this. I've got a few ideas. I'm thinking I just need to hold up those whites, and so I do have a few options there. But unfortunately, none of my troll units can see those whites at all, because that would be the best thing, is just to send in some trolls and really do some damage. But unfortunately, I don't think I have that ability. And the token, we can see there I had just dropped it in my turn. I must have, yeah, because it's now sitting there, so I must have dropped it. But yeah, it's not going to help very much because the Goblin could just go over there and grab it. So we will see what happens in my turn as I try and put this mess back on my favor. In turn 5, for me, the Goblins, I decided to split my forces in an attempt to try and get a bit of everything, which never works out, does it? But we try anyway. So I have my 2 free troll units that I decided that needed to be used, and I sent one into the Brew of Strength Legion and one into the Gorblite. The wavered ones continue to be wavered, so they just kind of sit there, which is fantastic. And then I have dropped the token with the Goblins, who have just disengaged. They're just there's no point just trying to beat against those zombie trolls. So I decided to disengage, move a bit, drop first, move a bit, so that I get off the footprint, so that my troll bruiser can then move and grab that token. So that's the nifty little trick that I'm doing there. The problem is that the other token is definitely up for contention, as it's now sitting on that the Legion of Zombies. So I didn't drop it, actually. It must have just been... he was probably thinking which one should pick it up, but obviously the Legion of Zombies. So the Legion of Zombies, you can see right on top of their girders, where those street signs are, there's the token. So they've got one, and I need to get it back. So yeah, what I should have done, looking at this now, is I should have double charged the Legion of Zombies. Yes, I am in danger, or most certainly will get a flank charge from that Gorblite, but I have to destroy this Legion. They have to be destroyed, and it's not going to happen with just one horde of trolls going in. I need 2, and so yes, in hindsight, that is really what I should have done, is sent in those 2, because then 36 attacks hitting on 4s, so we get to 18 in, and then they're wounding on 2s, so I should get about 16, 15 damage. And I think that they're probably only like 5 damage so far from just various things hitting them, or no damage. But 15 damage is definitely somewhere. It's still not anywhere close that we need to get rid of them. I have to do that twice. Really, I need to get them up to 30 damage, so that I can reliably get rid of them. So it's really hard when they're dash 29. So yeah, that's what I mean. I just need more attacks. If you had something going in that could do 30 hits, by itself, or something like not 30 hits, but yeah, it's just, that's the problem. So anyway, we have what we have, and it's still a sound idea, because knowing that I won't break them in one go, at least the Gorblite can be taken care of. So then we look at the solution that I have for getting attacked in the flank from whites, is to hold them up, albeit temporarily, with 2 individuals. Grupp was right there ready to go, so he's jumped in, and I've sent in Groany Snark as well. And the idea is that, yes, one alone wouldn't be able to stop them whatsoever, but maybe both? The danger of sending in 2 individuals to a fight means that we can have that both of them can be taken out in one combat, because you kill one, overrun, kill the next, and I really hope that won't be the case. I'm just hoping that Grupp's Ensnare will be sufficient to hold things back, and he will also, if he does any damage, which he should, weaken them with his Fulgur, so that really that they might not be able to kill anything in return. But it's all gambling here, and it's making me nervous. Coming into turn 5 for Matt Sellick, we can see it only took 1 turn for the Brew of Strength Zombies to go through my horde of trolls. Only 1 turn, I tell you. You do the math hammer, and they really should only be doing about 6 damage. They'll have 10 hits from their 30 attacks, and then when they're hitting on 3s with the Bane Chant, which I think he nearly always gets, they should be doing, about 6 damage, and, got rid of them. Gone. And I don't think they were that damaged. They maybe had 1 from a Cloak of Death. So, yeah, consider me surprised. So now that's facing down my flank, looking at all the others. And the idea was that, those trolls could go in, maybe I kill the Gorblite and turn, so I have... by the time 1 troll horde dies, the next one's ready to go. But instead, here we are. My trolls are all still otherwise engaged, and I've got a whole horde of zombies. But actually, looking at it, it's hard to tell, they are facing the other way, because I think he realized that he needed to get more tokens with this now freed up Legion. There's nothing to stop it from just going off and getting more tokens. That's what he has done. He's turned it around. So, yeah. So what I did not mention was that my Wingit, who had up until this point had a token, had died. How, you might ask? Well, I think it was in turn 4 that the Morgoth, who we see here on the hill, managed to do a nice Drain Life. He's got Drain Life 7, Wing It's not that tough, he's not that nervy, and he just died. So yeah, that's just sitting out there. You can see it there in front of my War Engines, now ready in the path of the Whites. So the Whites' goal, I think, is to head over there, grab that token. It's the Legion of Zombies' goal to get the middle token. Getting all the tokens, it's rather rude, just how many tokens that Sellick wants. It's as if he wants to beat me or something. So yeah, and as far as that side of the battlefield's concerned, I can't really stop it apart from my War Engines just, you know, really right now just shooting into the regiment of zombies, because if I can get them dead, then at least they're dropping the one that they are holding. And yeah, so it's just not a pleasant situation, as I realise that the lead that I had at the start is now slowly escaping me. And there you can see the the regiment of zombies, just with a little token, 6 damage on them, but it's still ways off from actually getting them gone. So for my turn 6, there's not a lot that can be done, and I kind of glossed over the fact that those Whites are able to turn and get that token because they killed both the individuals. No problem at all. Maybe there was a slight problem. It might have been slightly difficult, but they managed to go through both, which, you know, one, definitely doable, but both? I didn't think so, especially when they got that full grr on them. You know, they technically will be just crushing strength 1, hitting on 4s. I would have thought that would have been enough, but it was not, unfortunately. So yeah, all I've got left over here are the War Engines, and they're just kind of wondering what to shoot. Should I keep shooting those zombies, or should I try and put a bit more damage onto the Whites? But I don't think they've really taken all that much damage over this whole time, because yeah, they've been able to jump around all over the place, and really that's my fault that I let them have such a way with the battlefield. That's very bad. But looking back over at the Troll, I guess, disaster, I've just, obviously I've got to keep charging in. At least I'm no longer wavered, so the Goblin gets a charge, counter charge, the Legion of Zombies has another counter charge, and my Goblins have a counter charge into the zombie trolls. It's just all that can be done, and you can see that my Troll Bruiser has completed his mission. He has gone off with the token, so he's just jogging off that way. And so that's the plan, is just he will get out with this 2-point token. Well, that's the only token I seem I'll get, and so that's just what I'll have to deal with. So hopefully I can kill these 2 units, because that's the idea. If I can kill the Gorblight, I don't think I can obviously kill the Legion of Zombies, but then I can turn and threaten that unit of that Legion of Zombies over there, the one that heading for 1 token. So if they can just, then they'll have to flip around, then they won't be able to just go off and get another token, and maybe the trolls can just start chipping away. But it is turn 6, so there's only turn 7 to do more damage, and that's not enough turns. So yeah, definitely things are not going quite the way I had pictured. In Matt Sellick's turn 6, the Whites have indeed moved onto that token, taken what was once the Wingets, and so now is theirs, so that's putting them up to 1, 2, 3 tokens. So one of those is a 2-point, and we're just leaving that 1 token that you can see on the hill right there on its lonesome that the Zombie Legion would have picked up, but instead it had turned around, done a complete 180 to face the trolls that were facing the Gorblight, and then surged in to kill those trolls. Because, as you can see, there's a Gorblight missing, so I think I actually managed to kill it, and for whatever reason hadn't indicated that in the pictures that I had shown before. But yeah, it's gone, and so now he needed to then clear up those trolls, because he couldn't handle having trolls in the rear if there was a turn 7. So he came back, surged in, killed the trolls quite easily, because apparently this is an exceptionally good unit at killing trolls. Who would have thought? But it's just rolling hot all the time. And then, almost as if in competition, the other Zombie Legion and the Zombie Trolls decided that they better pick up the slack, and also executed both of their units summarily, leaving me without unit strength beyond my single Troll Bruiser that executed his mission, as mentioned. So, yeah, everything is dead, and I have my 1 token, and I'm just going to keep it so I retain some tournament points, but that went south really quickly. So that first thing, I was holding the line, I had engaged everything, and then it was all gone, and that all really came down to not engaging that single Legion of Zombies straight away and holding off. I probably couldn't have, I was probably out of range, but, you know, that was a blunder. And so here I am. I mean, there's the hot rolling of the opponent and the bad rolling of myself, all that kind of stuff, but you do have to always acknowledge the fact that there is a tactical nuance that was obviously not taken into consideration. You'll forgive me for having skipped over my turn, but I did not have that much to do with only a king and a troll bruiser remaining. So the troll bruiser obviously just kept on moving, getting out of range of both those trolls, and the zombie trolls and the zombies. So he's fine. He's got out of there. So that's at least I got some tokens for myself. And then my king was hoping to just with some lucky shots take out something. But in Sellick's turn, he then charged in with the zombies into one war machine. Didn't do any damage. Charged in with the whites to the other war machine. Absolutely killed it. Just getting some attrition points here. And then the most lucky thing was he had that zombie legion that needed to be surged, and it made it onto the token and was able to grab that final token in the middle. So he managed to grab 4 tokens in total, one of which was a 2-point token, and I had 1 2-point token. So it's, one part of my plan worked out, but none of the other parts really did. So, I mean, if we think back, we have the bang sticks, going forwards too much and then getting surged in with the whites, when really the whites could have just turned around and they wouldn't have been able to charge. They would have just been facing their front, and so they would have taken a double charge from the bang sticks, which is exactly what the bang sticks need. They need that double charge to take out units, and so that would have got rid of those. They would have been very fragile by that point, and so Morgoth definitely would have been drain lifing them, probably would have taken them down, but then the whites are gone, so that's one thing not to worry about. And then on the other side, well, yes, it's probably the biggest thing was the target priority that I didn't employ. So what I should have done is ensure that the goblins were going into the zombie legions, while the things with defense 5, such as the zombie troll and the gorblight, were getting attacked by my own trolls, because that's where they were best employed. And I should have actually been thinking about that earlier as I'm moving up, because I just kind of just moved everything up in that same formation, when really what I should have been is kind of jostling things around, being like, okay, so these goblins are going to go that legion, these goblins are going to this legion, these trolls are angling that way, and I wasn't doing that. I was kind of, I was just thinking, move this whole cohort, that is all the units together in that same formation that I established at the start. Let's not kind of deviate, and I should have been deviating. I should have been, pivoting at the start, moving things outwards, so the goblins would have needed to move a bit more to the left, so that they could get into those legions quite easily, and the trolls maybe either stay on course or start drifting to the right, and just angling it in a way that I could get the matchups I wanted. But I wasn't thinking ahead to those matchups. I was merely just thinking delaying the attack. That's all I was thinking. I wasn't thinking, well, while I'm delaying, what can I do? And so that's something I need to think about is, yes, so I am delaying, but what would be the best way I want this engagement to occur? And it's all well and good to say this in practice. I'm saying it here now. I'm looking back and reviewing this footage. But whether that can be applied in the heat of the moment when you're rolling the dice, and I'm trying to record as well, so it's never good if I'm trying. I'm surprised with my performance while recording, and the recording this way actually doesn't take too much to do, because I guess the one advantage of this that this has over, say, just pictures, which I know will be crisper detail. But this allows me to also, in the movement of the camera, where I can see, not in perfect detail, but good enough for me when I'm trying to remember, especially 3 weeks later, is that I can kind of get the whole context of the battlefield. Whereas if it's one zoomed in picture where I'm just taking a picture of, say, damage done to a dragon, I'm kind of without context there. And I'm only going with the date stamp on the picture, just knowing that it came before this other picture, and it came and then another picture came after, and so it was just, this is why I do like this, is able to help me figure out and see what I'm doing. So, and it's easy to record, so that was the ultimate thing I was saying. So I think were I to do this battle again, I would definitely hold off a bit more with the bang sticks, and I think I just got a bit too overzealous. Once I took out those Soul Reavers with the artillery, I'm like, I'm invincible. But that's not the case. And Grony really didn't do anything in this game, so that's why, taking him out, this is the fact that it's listed illegal. Grony didn't really knock it out of the park. He didn't didn't really kill anything by himself. He didn't kill the Goblin, he didn't kill the White, certainly. He's just, yeah, not that... He is good. I've used him to disrupt a lot of plans, but it's just not that worth it. I mean, perhaps what would have been worth it? A regiment of Goblins would have been worth it. So if I had just a simple regiment of Goblins, it's pretty cheap, leaves me some points to put into something else, you know, an extra item here or there, and they can just go up and grab any of those tokens, just like that zombie regiment did. That was their sole goal. And it could have been the Goblin regiment that could have opposed them, perhaps. Or could have picked up the other token that my horde picked up and could have dropped, just like was happening for my Troll Bruiser. They could have executed the same kind of mission, but no, I didn't. But at the same time, I couldn't be bothered painting more Goblins, because, you know, if I want to have a Goblin regiment, I do need to paint at least 12 Goblins. 15 really, just to fill it up properly, and I wouldn't be able to put a cute little hut on it either, because there wouldn't be much room on the base. So, you know, it's definitely something that I'll start including in my list, because Goblin hordes are really good because they can just hold things down, but the rabble regiments is where it's at for actual utility. So I will definitely be putting some together when I come back to these. I'm moving on to Trident Realms now, washing my hands of Goblins a little bit. But I definitely will come back, because yeah, I've got more Goblins. I just haven't painted them, so I've got more rabble, both Mantic and GW. So yeah, so overall it's I think it was 17-4. That was this score in this one. So we're doing blackjack scoring at ConVic. So it's not great, but you know, you could say it's the start of my submarine journey. So just like Sean Connery in the Red October, I'm going down, and we'll see who I go against next, and I'll hopefully record that very nice and quickly soon. I've gotten into the rhythm of how to edit these kinds of videos, so they shouldn't take too much effort for the future ones. So until then, I haven't got a catchphrase.